Kate Daly Show starts now. And now, in a desperate attempt to fill 24 hours of programming, here's a bunch of crap that happened somewhere today. We've got some footage here, which began just after 3 o'clock this afternoon, when residents in this neighborhood were shocked to see this fairly common thing happening. An attractive witness described the event in breathless terms.
I went to my window and I was like, whoa, there's something happening.
That happened right over there. I'm an older man, so you can trust what I say.
Now let's see if we can drag this out a little longer.
Absolutely, Glenn. This has some broader implications. Here's a list of tips on how to avoid happening to you.
And here's some footage of Congress.
Yes, I see that.
Well, thank you, Keith. When we return, we'll look at live footage of a car chase taken from a helicopter and free associate about what's going on.
Oh, you gotta love it. Isn't that the truth though? Oh gosh, that's what we listen to and look at every night, right? The nightly news. Oh my gosh, I love the mockery. Today I have Melissa, Midwest Melissa, and of course Susan, and it's a great day. And we have had the SO2 address, and so there's just so much to talk about. So we'll get everything up to speed. I did want to say that, and I forgot to mention it yesterday when I was talking to Pam, and that is, of course, the executive order regarding glyphosate supply, right? So the executive order that President Trump did was framing the glyphosate supply as a national defense issue and directing federal priority of domestic production. Yep, keeping it alive and well and away from anyone to really sue it. And so there was a case that dropped, and that case, by the way, yesterday, Monsanto asked the Supreme Court to preempt state Roundup cancer claims. So there's a lot going on there. I'll talk about it more tomorrow, but it was really strange to see Donald Trump protect the glyphosate supply so much. So as we were talking about health, I just wanted to go there for just a moment because it was really crazy and sick and sad. And it's hard to see these things because, what that means for our food supply to be covered in glyphosate multiple times. They changed that in the mid-90s. That's when autism started going through the roof, by the way, in conjunction possibly with the aluminum in vaccines. It created maybe an autism storm. So they started spraying glyphosate multiple times during the growing, and it's kind of crazy. I had Stephanie Senoff on a long time ago on the show, and she was describing the perfect storm that was happening with glyphosate and that. So Donald Trump actually went and did an executive order that is making sure that they stay alive and well with no questions. And so, ouch, that's a big ouch for us. And I hope everyone's really understanding what that means for our food supply. It's bad. It's really bad. Remember DDT, the effects of DDT, I think, is what caused the polio epidemic. So what they called polio symptoms. And so they've been raining havoc on us since 1893 with different things that they've dropped on us on our food supply that have then caused crazy symptoms. And when you look at our health, it's pretty darn bad. So I just want to kind of let people know about that executive order. But I will talk about it tomorrow a little bit on our Thursday show. All right, Melissa, how are you?
I am good as always.
Excellent.
The sun is shining, so we're happy.
Okay.
But there was snow yesterday and snow this morning
Well,
again.
good. Well, good.
Hey, raw.
All right.
That's
So
not good.
we have to talk. We have to talk about present a little bit on the SO2 address, if you would.
Well, I just mind that was not mentioned in the State of the Union because Trump has a way of being a rah-rah man for himself. Everything is the best and the biggest and the most beautiful, this big, beautiful, this and that.
I think it's funny. That part never bothered me. I was just like, oh, that's funny. I mean, it's like, it's just his personality.
That's the circus. That's the spectacle of it.
Yeah.
But there was no mention of Israel at all
Okay.
in any way, shape, or form.
Interesting.
Nothing about Gaza development, nothing about, now there was some talk about Iran,
Mm-hmm.
but, and Jared Kushner, I believe, was absent. Ivanka was there.
No, I saw Jared Kushner.
Oh, he was in the audience?
Mhm,
I did
mhm.
not see him. He was not sitting with Ivanka, was he? I don't believe
he was in back of the first lady, I thought. Maybe
Okay.
if I'm seeing the right thing.
Oh,
Anyway.
that may be. They may have put him in a different place. But
Mhm.
yeah, anyway, no commentary about Israel or our biggest, best ally,
Mhm.
right, in the whole wide world is Israel. So
Yeah.
you'd think that there was also not a peep about any Epstein anything.
Interesting. Since they really
And-
want that to be the top story, and there's a lot of evil going on there. So,
Well, he doesn't want to talk about that.
that's interesting. Okay.
There was nothing said about
Mhm.
AI data centers, and the
Mhm.
whole AI thing has been kind of a big deal with him for a while about how we're going to just transform everybody's wonderful world
Mhm.
through the. Now he did talk about how we're going to push our students ahead
Mhm.
with faster learning with AI. And I don't know that he said AI. I don't remember that he called it out in particular.
Mm.
But the whole controversy that's brewing, certainly here in the Midwest, is about data centers and water. And
Yeah.
that was not even mentioned
Not even a
in any
mention.
way, shape, or form.
Mm.
Nothing.
Either was the spying or the all-
I also wrote down with that.
Palantir.
Coming with the AI data centers is the coming surveillance state.
Mhm.
So I didn't hear anything about 15-minute cities or how
Mhm.
amazing and wonderful all this is going to be. Nothing.
What was the main focus?
He kind of shifted around between, I felt he used recognition, kind of feel good recognition
Mhm.
moments
Mhm.
with, like, he brought the hockey team in,
Mhm.
the men's hockey team, which was absolutely the high point, I thought, of the whole speech.
Mhm.
Because it was a really genuinely feel good moment where I'm like, yeah, those guys are great. I have a hockey player in my house.
Right, right.
And we had seen the end of the game live on
Mhm.
TV.
Mhm.
And those guys just seem like it's very refreshing to see the return of, like, solid hockey players. These are guys. And the women's Olympic hockey team also won gold. It was double gold for the hockey team.
Mhm.
The women were not there. And I've
Mhm.
heard from my hockey players, the reason why they were not there is because they're still in their season. So they went back to playing their games or training or whatever they're doing.
Okay.
But anyway, the recognition of that feel good moment, and it came really early in the speech.
Mhm.
He brought them out very early, and they got one of the few standing ovations from everybody in the room.
Okay. I am getting a couple of messages from people that he did mention that he was requiring big tech to build their own power plants to get electricity for AI centers, data centers.
I may have missed that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's possible.
Okay.
Anyway.
But is
there
there
was also-
legislation to support that? I mean, it's interesting that's I don't know, that it just seems like a drop that's kind of an interesting drop to say in the SO2 address. It's like, and you're going to be doing this. It's like, well, what supports that? You know what I mean? So
Well,
there's something kind of strange about that, but okay.
the other thing that I felt that was kind of missing,
Mhm.
because I personally feel like it's one of the places where the government has actually gotten some traction.
Mhm.
There was no mention of any of the Maha stuff.
Interesting.
Some of the rollbacks of some of the things that I think a lot of people are
Mhm.
grateful for.
Right.
But maybe if he opens that can of worms, I know there has been some discussion with RFK about glyphosate. Maybe he doesn't want to go down that path because he doesn't want to talk about that either.
Doesn't want to talk about his executive order that protects glyphosate.
Correct. So if
Yeah,
you bring
it's
up,
terrible.
we're making all this headway about Americans, the health part of it.
Mhm.
So he rotated from these feel good moments. Here's the hockey team. Oh, look, we're going to recognize this World War II veteran who
Mhm.
has 100 years old.
Mhm.
We're going to, we're going to give him they gave a an Afghan soldier a
Mhm.
Medal of Freedom, I think it was
Mhm.
what it was. Anyway, those feel good moments with the kind of harder, drier policy statements.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's like I said, the best stuff were those recognitions.
Mhm.
Although if I think back over other State of the Union addresses, I don't know that that has been done as often or as frequently as he did last night, recognizing people
Mm.
with Medal of it was my impression that like if you won the Congressional Medal of Honor,
Mhm.
that was done in a different ceremony
Mm.
usually.
Well, and to me, it's just a big distraction because we're not getting rid of anything. We're not doing anything to get rid of anything. So,
Yeah, there was none of that. There
detrimental
was none
to
of that.
us and our freedom and our liberty. And so, that's what's so frustrating, and what I think, one of the, I had to stop watching it. I just had to turn it off because one of the craziest things about this show is really built on saying, look, it's the same bird, two feathers. They go in one, the presidency, everything goes in one direction. It's not about loving or hating Trump. It's about seeing the presidency for what it is, so that you're not happy or mad at Trump. You're mad at the deep state that's controlling everybody, including Trump. So that's what this show is really showcases and is so adamant about. And to me, it's seeing the truth. So you know who to be mad at because they're trying to train us. Like in the SOTU address, here's my point. In the SOTU address, that we have these long standing ovations where one side stands and one side doesn't. And it's very tribal and it's very much like, here's the distraction, focus on this. Or like you said, like the feel good things are really weird because it's like, if you're going to talk about the nation, talk about the nation, but the feel good stuff is just like, it's just pandering to me. So, and I thought the same thing when Obama did it because they all do it for different reasons and for different people. So on the conservative side, I like some of the people that he's pointing out. I think it's great. It's just that I think it's a distraction because there's not much to say to the people to say, well, we're getting rid of this, this, and this. There isn't that. So that's why I'm like,
it is absolutely spectacle.
Yes. And they've turned it into that so that you can see which side cheers for what. And then these very, very long clapping sessions. And it's crazy to me. It's like a big giant circus with a big giant tent.
Well,
and
you
it's
remember
frustrating.
back in high school when you went to the pep session, the pep rally,
Mhm.
it feels like a pep rally
Mhm.
where,
Mhm.
we're gonna
Yeah.
slam on the other team and then we're gonna ring our victory bell and we're gonna be
Right.
so happy.
Mhm.
And instead of actually addressing like what are the concerns of the country, that's why I brought up
Mhm.
no mention of Israel, no
Mhm.
mention of the Epstein scandals. That's what people are talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking about and talking about.
I mean,
And
yeah.
yeah,
AI is saying we're going to have some sort of war action around March 8th. So I'm like, it's a kind of interesting that nothing has been mentioned
great.
like that. I mean, don't you think that's weird? But it's also a spectacle on how much the leftists hate America. That's pretty evident, right? You saw a
Yes,
lot of
and that was one of my worst moments
Mhm.
was when Trump recognized the mother of Irina Zarutska,
Mhm.
the young woman who was killed on the train
Mhm.
in, I think it was Charlotte, North Carolina.
I think it was a false flag, but yes, yeah, that's the case.
Well,
That's the case. Yes,
her mother was there
Mhm.
and was clearly distraught,
Mhm.
clearly like sobbing. It
Mhm.
was kind of hard to look at her actually. And I think someone who is experiencing that kind of grief,
Mhm.
that is what you would, I mean, I think that is the reaction that is normal. Like
Mhm.
it's hard to watch someone and you just want to reach out and give her a hug.
Right.
What I thought was interesting
Yeah.
was that she was sitting next to Erica Kirk, who couldn't have tried to distance herself any farther from this woman.
Sitting next to her. She
Yeah,
was just
everybody's standing up,
Mhm.
and it felt very weird because Erica Kirk was almost leaning backward to provide a little
like
a gap
yeah.
between her and this woman. So you would think that a woman who has had her husband publicly assassinated might have a little bit more compassion for the mother of a woman who was also very publicly killed. We've all seen that video too.
Yeah.
So it was a weird moment.
Was Erica dabbing tears that weren't there
She's
constantly?
There's something about her that doesn't sit right with me.
Something's wild. Yeah.
And she was dressed all in black from head to toe. And I looked at my husband. I said, "What happened to the sparkly suit?"
Right. Yeah. A week after
But
Charlie died.
Yeah.
Apparently.
No, she was dressed all in black. It was very somber. It just felt theatrical.
Yeah.
That she feels theatrical to me a
Very
lot.
theatrical. I'm with you.
So there's that. So otherwise, I just thought, it's what I expected it to be. But
and she didn't put her arm around this woman. We have one of the texters texting in at 435-680-2503. She didn't put her arm around her or anything. No empathy whatsoever.
She didn't reach out to touch her hand or to give her a pat
wild.
on the back. Nothing. It was cold.
It was kind of like
cold.
how she was towards Charlie's parents visually at when they finally got there was no funeral, but which was weird. But when they finally got over to the president giving a speech, and they were in front of the president, and his parents wanted nothing to do with her and didn't want to even stand next to her.
Yeah,
and by the way, they weren't even on the plane that JD Vance got for Erica Kirk. Not one relative, even though she says she's very close to all this family, not one relative was by her side for any of that, by the way, just as a side note. But yeah, crazy that she was there dabbing the tears that don't exist. That was odd. So
it's always weird with her.
Yeah.
But the other thing about Irina Zarutska's mother, it's just a tough thing to take, to watch the left side of the house sit.
Yeah.
For that.
Well,
if you had a shred of, I'm not saying we should stand up and cheer, but there should be some greater sense of what is
right,
proper,
it's
and
shocking, so
compassionate.
So you have to kind of think, okay, well, why are they doing that? Like, what's the purpose of it? And I really do feel that these kinds of things, and this is just one of many, is all about setting up that very, we're at odds. We don't love the same America. Get on the bandwagon of the team you're on, and it's all about tribal teams, and everyone is at each other's throats. That's what they're trying to sell, no matter who it is, no matter what's going on. Because remember when Nancy Pelosi was like shredding the documents behind Trump?
Right.
Right? I mean, it's so much, I think, stage fakery and grandstanding and like exceptional theater that they have to get all of us to go, how dare they? You know what I mean? Like they have to get us emotional and up about it so that we fight for the team we're on. And instead of seeing that the deep state's running the show and that we should all be that angry at the deep state, they redirect all the anger towards this type of thing so that we walk away going, we hate, of course, these people that hate America, right? Which they do, by the way. So I'm not saying that's fake. They actually do hate America. What's her name? The congresswoman with the
Ilhan Omar.
Yes, that married her brother. Okay, so
yeah,
she does hate America, but they will have to showcase her doing this because they have to. It's kind of like all assigning parts in some ways, I feel. And then we walk away hating her instead of the deep state directing all this madness.
Well, every good play has to have a villain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we just rotate the villains around, from year to year. It depends on.
Right.
Well, to make a historical analogy, I don't know if ancient Rome was run by the deep state. I suspect it probably was too.
Yeah.
But it feels like that was a gathering of the most ineffective people in the whole country cheering each other. The only thing that is similar in spectacle
Mhm.
is like the Oscars.
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
nobody cares about either.
Right.
But it's a group of people applauding themselves for having done absolutely nothing and getting paid a lot to do it.
For life. Getting
It's
paid
the
a lot for
same
life.
It's the same freaking
Yeah,
thing.
I'd be part of the theater too if I was going to get paid that much money, right, for life. I mean, it's ridiculous, but yeah, it's really good right now to get a really healthy view of what government is, what they're doing, and especially what they're not doing. And I'm hoping that on our right, because I'm a conservative, right? On my right, I'm hoping that people are very much aware that this has been a year now and we haven't gotten rid of anything. We've only expanded government. We are not dealing with all the big ticket items. We're not even talking about them. And we're still just immersed in Epstein stuff, because it's not that Epstein stuff doesn't matter. We got a lot of evil going on, but they want us to get accustomed to the evil. And they want us to get us to the point where it's like, oh, it's evil, but move on. What's the next thing? So that's why they're drawing this out very slowly with the Epstein paperwork, I feel, and the papers coming out, is because they want us to just feel like, well, nothing's going to happen. So I'm just not even going to invest any interest in it anymore. That's what they're trying to do with that.
I actually think that has boomeranged at them,
Maybe.
because I think
A little bit.
initially they wanted it to
Mhm.
just go away.
Mm-hmm.
They said there's not. I remember,
But
Trump
then they
saying
brought it all out. So I
It
don't
was
know.
a big sham. It was some Russiagate thing
Mhm.
again, and
Mhm.
it was all the Democrats doing it. And as these papers have trickled out, it
Mhm.
seems that it is not just Democrats doing it. It is not a sham. There is some very substantial stuff. And it's like we talked about it a couple weeks ago. I think there is some very hideous stuff,
Mhm.
human rights hideous stuff,
Mhm.
but there's also a whole world of financial stuff to unpack there that Americans have much less attention span to figure that out. That's why the whole business with Les Wexner is not going anywhere, because that's a financial issue there.
Mhm.
And it's just fascinating to me that Les Wexner, who's been identified as an unindicted co-conspirator,
Mhm.
is not being asked the really hard questions.
Mm.
He's not. And so I think there's massive cover up.
Mhm.
And I think it's going to be massive in the US that we're not going to get the satisfaction that we want.
Mhm.
We're seeing it around the world. Other places are looking at people whose names are popping up in the Epstein stuff.
Mhm.
Poland has just announced a creation of a special body to review the paperwork, to review the documents for any names of their officials, their people that could be involved in this. In fact, I have increasing respect for Poland, actually.
Mhm.
If there are any links to Poland, Polish citizens, or victims from Poland who might be involved in some way, and to assess national security implications. Did Trump say anything about that at the State of the Union? Did he say, I have directed the Department of Justice to review all of this paperwork for any national security implications for Jeffrey Epstein's involvement with any number of high-ranking political and world leaders? Did he
Okay.
say that? He should have said that.
Mhm.
That would have made me feel better,
Mhm.
but he didn't.
Right.
Why didn't he?
Right. Mhm.
So we know that, in England, they're taking a member of the royal family out. And before they're done, I suspect there's going to be more than one member of the royal family who's going to suffer from their involvement. Because I think it's almost impossible to think that the king did not know of his brother's involvement. And that will take both King Charles and Andrew out. And that is kind of a substantial thing, because if you come from the world of conspiracy theories where there's a group of people who kind of run the world, the British royal family is often on that list. Are they really going to be able to take two members of that family out? And if they are, what kind of liability are they really?
Right. Here's a commenter on text, on the text line. The text line is down below on the ticker if you're watching the show, because you can do this live while we're live, because Epstein files are a hoax. You know, I would think, I can't say I know, but I would think that a lot of the files have been created. And I think that it's a great distraction to the amount of evil happening. Because there is so much evil going on. So I'm not taking any light off of the evil, but what I'm saying is they're utilizing it for a reason. And they may be utilizing it. And I said this when it first came out, and I don't know if people remember that, but I said, you know, they're probably going to utilize this as a, geez, we need, because of these files, because of what's going on, and then we're not going to get anybody going to jail or whatever, or uncover anything important. Boy, that digital ID and where we're going with transparency on the blockchain and all of these types of things are going to be a great way to end the corruption and the horribleness. And even though it's not going to touch it, they're going to try to say that the big answer is going in this direction of the big ticket item of the deep state. So therefore it will solve all of this horribleness, you know, happening. And because people are demanding that something be done, nothing will be done. And I think they created a lot of the files for misdirection, but I also think that they didn't want anyone to realize what they're really doing there with the whole Epstein thing and how many Epsteins there are. So I think that they're trying to create so many distractions around it and then keep us busy with this, right? That's how it feels to me. So
and I have believed from the beginning,
mm-hmm.
and I don't know that any of this is in those Epstein papers, that Epstein's real crimes
mm-hmm.
were financial.
Mm-hmm.
He was
financial and something very weird about some of the experimentation they were doing on people, and they're consuming talk and rhetoric about kind of like playing God and creating and understanding psychology and people and what they can do to people and stuff like that. It reminds me of the Nazi scientists, the medical people in the field. Yeah, it reminds me of that.
And that's what's really creepy about
mm-hmm.
people like
mm-hmm.
Bill Gates's involvement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
About Stephen Hawking's involvement.
Mm-hmm.
I read a really horrible thing, and I'm not gonna. It was about Stephen Hawking. What was he doing? There's apparently a photograph in the files of Stephen Hawking with two bikini-clad women sitting on either side of him.
I don't know. There's something weird about that.
But I'll tell you what it's going to take. And
mm-hmm.
I looked at this preparing for today. Why are we not seeing any arrests from any of this? And I don't think we will either. And I think we're not going to see it here because I just think that the will inside the government to prosecute their own is completely lacking.
And it always has been. You just even go back to Benghazi, nothing was done. Nothing ever is done. But like even Prince Andrew, they didn't charge him with murder or sex trafficking. They're just claiming that he abused his position. See, they did this with, oh my gosh, we could go back and we could do so many of these because it goes back pretty far on something big happens. They talk about it in the press, incessantly, and then nothing at the end of the day actually happens. And so I know people know that we're never going to get to the core truth about what they were doing, how extensive it was, based on the CIA, the kinds of experiments they do, based on the things that they lie about. I would say that it's probably heavier than any of us could stomach on what is actually happening, not just trafficking, but what is actually going on. But we're never going to get to the root of it because I think they just created a different set of files that everybody can pour through that's never going to even skim the surface of what they do.
Well, and some of this there's been a few things that have come out that I think were surprising to me that they were there.
Mm-hmm.
But are you really shocked and amazed that Pizzagate is confirmed in those files? I'm not. And like I said, I think that is the pedophilia aspect of it is bad enough, and it's bad. But how will we ever prove that they were involving in involving themselves in satanic rituals. How
Right.
and is there do you prosecute people for that?
Mhm.
Really?
Well,
Um,
here's a good comment on our comment line. Why isn't anyone protesting over people sacrificing and eating children, straight up cannibalism? But instead, people are paid to protest ICE. That's very true. That is very true. They want the kind of paid protesters in the issues that they want to cover, but not. It's never. It has nothing to do with. Well, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of whenever we go to war with a country, and it's always based on the lie of human rights being violated. But they pick and choose which country's human rights they are feeling, emboldened about, So it's this country over here could be completely screwing their people over and being abusive, and we never go to war over that, but we go over to war because there's an interest maybe for something else, but we blame it on human rights. Same thing with this. They pay their protesters for certain issues, but they not the issues that they really want people to understand that are going on. So
almost as it's almost
Mhm.
enough to make you think we live in the Matrix. Isn't it?
Exactly. And then it's paid because people are funny. To get mad about immigration, right, and illegals crossing into this country, but not get mad at any of this. I don't know. Do they just not believe it?
Well, here's
Maybe they don't believe
yes,
it. I don't know.
I do believe a lot of people. Some of this is so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you were just saying, why isn't anybody being prosecuted for eating
Mhm.
babies? Like I can't even hardly say that.
I know.
That is
I
so
can't
horrible.
fathom
But here's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
What proof, like admissible in court, do we have that they were actually doing that?
Mm.
Is there any proof? Do we have any baby bodies?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any witnesses that are willing to come forward and testify? Do we have any documentary evidence beyond
Mm-hmm.
the Epstein files, which are suspect at best, right? They've been in
Yeah,
the
I
hands
don't
of the
know. Yeah.
government for a really long time.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to know, isn't it? So
what would it take to prosecute someone, to arrest someone and put them in jail? You have to have evidence.
Mhm.
You have to have. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Bill Gates and Les Wexner are like the poster boys for this. So Bill Gates was like, oh, shucks, heck, I knew him. Yeah, I knew him.
Mhm.
And it was a big mistake. I'm so sorry I ever got involved with him. I thought he was going to help me get all kinds of money for health around the world. And my issue with Bill Gates is I don't want you involved in health around the world.
Yeah, he has no no reason to be there. They propped him up with MSN or with Microsoft, and he didn't even invent that. And what is he in? Our health and education.
Yeah, and not
why?
only that, he is a man who I think has a
Mhm.
crazy psychologically diagnosable God complex,
Mhm. And
tinkering
Asperger's
around with
Mhm.
people's health.
and Asperger's. Just wanted to,
But
and
is any of
Asperger's.
that
Yeah.
any of that against the law? Can I go arrest?
Mhm.
Can the police go arrest Bill Gates and say,
Mhm.
Mr.
Yeah.
Gates, you have a God complex and you shouldn't be tinkering with people's health around the world. So we're going to arrest you and put you in jail. No, that's not an arrestable
Mhm.
offense.
Mhm. Well, it's because
And-
they just wanted to hang it out as a distraction. They don't want anybody understanding the evil that's going on, the level of evil, I think.
Well, I think we're
Sadly.
beginning to understand it,
Mhm.
but I just don't think anything can happen with it because there's no evidence of it.
Mhm.
There's nothing beyond what's in questionable files that are heavily redacted and have been tinkered with by all kinds of government people who have a vested interest in hiding it.
Mhm.
So how do we know what's real in those? What is the chain of custody on any of those files?
Right.
Do we know who's had their hands on them
Hmm.
to know where they came from? Hopefully that information is somewhere, but I think prosecution, that's why Andrew is
Mhm.
going to be prosecuted for having given state secrets instead of the
Mhm.
sex trafficking, because state secrets are easier to prove in a court of law.
Mhm.
Now, it may be that I know the Met Police are interested in talking to his security detail because they may actually be witnesses to things that they personally saw, and that will change the complexion of this. But do you think there's going to be anybody that will testify against Bill and Hillary Clinton?
Well, not unless you want to end up one of their deceased friends. No. Mm-mm.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want to that's going to be the conundrum here. Les Wexner, the guy, he was the CEO of L Brands. He's the founder and CEO of L Brands. And he owned the freaking CIA airline.
Yeah.
But he says, oh, he's old now and he's just very befuddled. And yeah, he signed over power of attorney over his entire fortune to Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
And they believe that this is what allowed his Les Wexner's network of contacts and his money is what allowed Epstein to set up his entire human trafficking network. But what has Les Wexner done that was illegal? Unless there's someone who says, I heard him say, or there's an email that says, you've got to get those underage girls out of there, or, whatever. There's not that kind of evidence. The evidence that's in the files is very salacious, but not evidentiary. And that's going to be the rub.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's why it's the best distraction, because nothing can happen. But it's like with Russiagate too. Same thing. It was all a big false flag hoax. I mean, the whole entire thing was to keep everybody's eyeballs on Russiagate, with everything else happening in Trump's first term. So they just didn't want eyeballs on everything. So they just kept everybody absorbed into this left versus right Russiagate thing.
Well, and with Israel being our bestest ally in the whole world, the fact that Jeffrey Epstein was potentially a Mossad agent, and Ghislaine Maxwell, the daughter of a known and proven Mossad agent, that will never come out.
Right. But more proof the CIA and Mossad are hand in hand, because you would never just be operating in this country as a citizen of this country if Mossad and CIA were separate. They are one. I believe they are
one. Yeah,
absolutely one. So are all the intelligence agencies, all controlled by our
MI6.
Intelligence. Yeah.
It's France.
Military too.
Yeah. This is not an indictment of the boots on the ground.
Right.
That's the beginning of seeing the deep state. That's one arm of the deep state. And they go about the world creating wars and we keep sending our sons to fight them.
Yeah.
And
Sadly.
probably daughters now as well.
Sadly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being
So
completely used.
Yeah.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
Makes me so sad.
I know. Me too.
Well, I'll tell you what, I kind of want to spend a little bit of time before I leave here today, because I think the world feels really bleak and very heavy. Edvard Munch's famous painting called The Scream,
right?
That little ghostly kind of weird little man he's got his hands on both sides of his face and his mouth is open.
Yes.
Screaming.
Yes.
That's how it feels. A lot of the time we're up against incredibly dark forces. And I've had some conversations with younger people much younger than myself, who just feel that the world is just it's not a good place anymore. And that they're losing hope that things can be better or will be better for them. So I just wanted to address a little bit of that, because I think that we're all in a place where we need to kind of retrench and shore up our courage. And I found myself telling the person I was speaking to, I don't think it's going to get better, by the way. I think it's going to actually get worse as the world kind of spins its way into mayhem. So what do we do as individuals? How do we live in that world and not feel like it's just useless?
Right.
And I'll tell you, I was a fan of existentialist literature when I was in college.
Mhm.
If you want to really be sad and depressed, that's the way to go. But I think
Mhm.
there's some wisdom to be found there too. And just for me, I don't know. I will have you answer it too. For me, I have quit focusing on that
Mhm.
because there are people in my world, the people that I see every day and interact with
Mhm.
that are still worthwhile, that are still good people,
Mhm.
that I can still encourage, that I can still feel good about my relationship with
Mhm.
them.
Mhm.
I can, and so what am I going to do about Jeffrey Epstein? Nothing. I can't.
Right.
I can be aware. I can encourage all of us. We all need to kind of band together and stand up and speak out against it.
Mhm.
But at the same time, we have to find courage in our personal lives.
Right.
And so how do we do that? How do you do that, Kate? Because you wade in the deep waters a lot.
Oh my gosh.
What do you do?
For 16 years. Ah, um, it hasn't been easy. It's taken a toll on me for sure. But and it's hard because when you see it and you try to explain it to people, uh, they can't hear it. They don't want to hear it because it's very difficult to hear, right? And so there's a perspective that you have to have on it all the time, which really means that I did a show last week where I was talking about having more reliance on God, really praying to get through things like job loss and loss of someone you love and all of these things, and rely on Him to help you through that. Well, that's basically how my perspective works for all of this too, because I know I'm supposed to be here. We're all supposed to be here. We're all supposed to be alive right now, and for whatever reason, you have talents and you have things that can help. And so we don't ever stop helping. We don't ever stop trying to inform. We don't ever stop trying to be, trying to get educated on all of this and all the lies and all the fakery. And honestly, it's being mad at the right people so that you get out of their paradigm. So instead of being mad at Trump or loathing Trump or thinking he's evil or thinking he's the best thing ever and never does anything wrong, try to be mad at the right people and try to be angry at those that are actually doing the bidding, because I think everyone else is playing a part. They all have strings, and so those strings are really easy to play on people. So be mad at the right people, and so the more we see through it, the less power we give it. So the more we see the more we get involved in the fakery of everything, and that is what exhausts us every day, and that's the only thing we can talk about every day. Then we're giving it power. If you start to see through the fakery and you realize how much government's controlled by the deep state, all the players, all the Congress, all the judges, everybody's playing a part, then it takes that power away and you have a little bit more healthy perspective on it. But here's the deal. When it comes right down to and I tell my kids this because the youth is who I worry about, them getting too defeatist, right? So, yeah. So what I tell mine is, and I have all 20 somethings, right? And some 30 somethings. And so I tell them, look, the birthday parties will be there. The fun times will be there. The moments that of joy always are there. It doesn't matter what's going on. The depression, world wars, it doesn't matter what's happening. Joy always occurs. There's always happiness. There's always things that matter that bring you joy. So all those things will still continue. And you have to have a pretty healthy perspective to say, well, today I'm concentrating on this joy or that joy. And whatever happens with these files or these rotten people or these evil people is kind of out of my control. And all I can do is educate and inform people around me about what's happening. But at the end of the day, I also have to just live my life and concentrate on the really good things, because I don't want to lose that in lieu of worrying about the future. I can't, right? Because how do you live your life doing that? And, back in the day, like in the 1800s, people thought the world was ending then. So here we are in 2026, and there's more evil present. We have a huge, I think there's so many levels of evil going on that's hard to fathom. I don't have to fathom it every day. I can understand that there is that, but I don't have to concentrate on it every single day.
Well,
That's what I tell my kids.
Yeah. And you said something that kind of struck home.
Mm-hmm.
because what was said to me was, you think praying is enough.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, let's talk about what kind of prayers we should be saying.
Mhm.
The kind of prayers that I'm trying to say now are for guidance to know what to do.
Mhm.
Not just God save
Mhm.
save me,
Mhm.
or tell me, you come and intervene and make it all better.
Mhm.
But what do I do to make the world a better place?
Mhm.
What
Yeah.
I have eyes and I have hands, and what can I do?
Mhm.
And that's what there's lots of those kind of time management things that tell you to look at your circle of influence.
Mhm.
I don't have a circle of influence that lives in Washington. I have a circle of influence that lives in Indiana.
Yeah.
And I can help in that sphere. So if
Mhm.
you're praying about, I know when we were going through unemployment
Mhm.
about a little bit more than a year ago, when my husband got laid off from his job,
Mhm.
there were so many of my friends that were absolute angels in my life.
Mm.
I have a friend who lives locally who
Mhm.
donated some of her husband's deer meat from the
Oh,
autumn hunt.
nice. Yeah. Wow.
That was
I love that.
amazing.
Yeah. That stuff never ends. Yeah.
There were a couple of people that are listeners in this audience that were
Mhm.
there for us.
Right.
And that's how we make the world better.
Mhm.
And that's how we make it better through prayer too, to know what to do for someone else,
Mhm.
to know how to do it for somebody else.
Mhm.
And the satisfaction you get when you reach out. Remember when they had the big floods, and I was really early in on the Mountain Mule Rescue
Mhm.
group.
Yeah, that's right. Mhm.
And I've watched them
Right.
become this whole relief organization. And it
So
gives
cool.
me happiness
Mhm.
to know that happened. We have to look out for the other people who are the lights.
Mhm.
Because if we just focus on all the darkness, pretty soon the darkness can consume us.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it doesn't take very much light to make it better.
Yeah. And having
So,
a good perspective of God really helps. And I really hope that registers with people, because it really has helped me doing this every day in, day out for 16 years. I mean, and the study that I've done, I don't know how I would have done it without a faith in God, kind of knowing that I have a purpose here, and knowing, that, and recognizing joy, and recognizing Him, and recognizing all of that. I don't even know what that would have been like if I couldn't have done that. So, yeah.
Well, I just think that
Mhm.
if we're believing people, and we believe that, the days of Noah,
Mhm.
Christ said that we would, before he came back, it would be like the days of Noah. And in the days of Noah, there were only 8 people worthy of being saved from the flood.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
And we're not there. We're not in that
Mhm.
place.
Mhm.
And so we can rejoice that we're not in that place.
Right.
We
Right.
really, really can. There's lots, like you
A
said,
lot of good.
there's a lot of good in the
Mhm.
world still left.
Mhm.
There's a lot of happiness to be had. And how we frame it in our head
Mhm.
makes a big difference to how we live it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I've actually found I'm going to the gym now with my son.
Mhm.
He's the best personal trainer I've ever had.
Mhm.
And he's so funny to go with, because he gets so annoyed at people who are just not obeying the rules. It just makes me laugh. 'Cause
Oh my
I'm like,
gosh.
didn't you see those people who are doing
Mhm.
that? And I'm like, no,
Mhm.
because I just live in my own little bubble.
Right.
And so those little bubbles are important, I think,
Mhm. Yeah.
because I told him the other day as we were driving home, I said, you'd be a lot happier if you just let go of all that
Mhm.
and just said, people are weird sometimes,
Oh,
and
it's
just
so
laugh
true.
at it.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing that's really underrated.
Mhm.
If we learn to laugh at some of this, even watching the State of the Union last night, there were
Mhm.
moments that my husband and I were just laughing
Mhm.
because Trump can be really funny.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
he at one point he stopped in the State of the Union. He says, "Can you believe they're all just sitting there?" My
Oh.
husband and I were just laughing about it because
Mhm.
it's really true.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the talking point was that he had
Mhm.
just said. I think it was over like prohibiting minors from having transgender surgery. And of course all the Democrats are just sitting there with their arms folded looking glum.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
he totally off script. Can you believe they're just sitting there? Listen to what I just said, and they're just sitting there. It is funny.
He can be funny.
The
It's so
theater
true.
of it all
I
is
know.
humorous.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we have to have the same kind of sense of humor that you get from like Catch 22 or
I don't know.
some of the, but it is funny. Sometimes the absurdity of things is humorous. And if we can laugh at it, it doesn't take our soul.
If we really look at it like a daily soap opera, it's kind of like your daily dose of like Days of Our Lives back in the day. And I remember watching that even in college. I remember we all watched it, right? And it was like your daily dose. And what was funny was not a whole lot got done. I mean, it was just kind of a weird thing because they would string one scene out over like 3 shows. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I kind of picture it like that. Government works a lot like that. The deep state works a lot like that, where they kind of put these things out in front of us and they just hope we're buying into all the drama and that we feel emotion from the drama. And if we just continuously tell ourselves that, oh my gosh, we're being so lied to. But if we just continuously tell ourselves, look, this is the drama of the day, because look back on this entire year and go back and do headline searches for the year. And I promise you what you're going to find is more like, and they said this, and then they said this. And it's like over and over and over again. Yet we still get immersed into it. And it always cracks me up that we still find ourselves immersed in it because it's so heavy. It's hard
Well,
not to sometimes.
I think your soap opera analogy there is very fitting, because what is the point of the soap opera was the drama. And there was always drama. There was never a time in what was the town? I also watched Days of Our Life back in the day.
Right.
I can't even remember the town that they all lived in, but there was never a time where
Something-
everybody was like, "Oh, well,
Everything-
nobody has a
everything's
problem
okay."
today. Everybody's good. We're all going to,
Yeah.
we're all going to Jack's birthday party today. Woohoo!" There was never that time. And the soap opera analogy, those are the actors on the stage. The real people pulling the strings were the people, the script writers and the producers behind that,
Yes.
who were orchestrating that drama every day.
Yes, they want us consumed with the Epstein files that I think they did create a lot of these files for misdirection, changed a lot of things in them, because if I were them, I would have too, right? So, we waited a long time for some files to eke out, and I don't believe half of what I'm seeing. But the other thing is the Guthrie case, and they want us to be completely like in the media. That's pretty much what we're covering, right? What the rest of the media is covering right now. So,
Well, if you really want to get a much more focused picture of Epstein and what we're up against, Whitney Webb's book called One Nation Under Blackmail is actually 2 books. It's 2 volumes. And she wrote those books before there were any Epstein files. So what she has to say in those books is her research that's documentable.
yeah.
And she's got it was so grim. I read the whole first volume. And she goes back, she starts the story of Epstein with J. Edgar Hoover, because she lays down a pattern of behavior in the government, a pattern of behavior that is very important to understand. And so I got through the first book. Okay. It was lots of historical stuff. When we got to the Epstein stuff, it got so dark. I had to kind of set it aside. I've just gotten now to the place where I'm ready to pick it up and kind of finish the second volume. But there's information out there to be had. Go find there are people out there doing real research, real reporting that is meaningful, that are not drinking just whatever Fed slop is being presented to us today.
Yeah.
And I think Whitney Webb is one of them. She's got a grasp of the darkness behind Epstein. And her point is also that the sex trafficking was the front. It was the honey trap. That was the trap. There's always a trap, but that's not where the real action is.
Yeah.
And we talked a couple of weeks ago about Jeffrey Epstein was the man who knew how to make dark money disappear. And we will never know that. That's not going to be found in those papers.
Right. And also
Never.
the deep experiments they've been doing, because when I said reminds me of the Nazi scientists, it reminds me of some of the stuff that was going down, what they were trying to do. Remember their obsession with twins and their obsession with, well, they had a lot of obsessions, and it was very, very strange. And they were also coordinating the whole vaccine program. So they were actually testing it on in World War II, right? In Germany, they were testing that on the Jews. But what's interesting about that is I keep going back to what is Epstein always obsessed with talking about? He's obsessed with talking about experimentation to come to conclusions, psychological conclusions, and I don't know. There's something a lot deeper and darker happening than what's been touched on, and I think the Nazi scientists, the sort of the Nazi experimentation has never ended. It's been done by intelligence, and it's been done in a way where it's never going to have any fallout. They're going to be able to continue to do what they do, completely protect it, and all of that comes to us. So why would they be experimenting so heavy on human beings and children and everybody else? Why would they be doing all of that? Because they're doing things to us, just like Palantir guides and directs our moves without us even understanding how they do it. So there's a lot bigger things, I think, happening there. And even on Epstein Island, I think there's a lot of Epstein Islands, but there's just deeper, darker things happening there because of their obsessive way of talking about it. They're consumed with it when they're in interviews.
That makes the connection between people like Epstein and Peter Thiel and Bill Gates and much darker than, and it's hard for me to say this, it makes it darker than the sex trafficking. And sex trafficking is a mighty dark subject.
Yes, but this even goes further, I think.
But it does. It's worse. It's worse than that even, because this is actually stripping innocence of their dignity, their humanity, maybe even their mental faculty, and maybe their life. But who, like I said, who will provide the evidence of that? So what we have to do is we have to be the judge and jury on that. And I'm not sure what that means, but I'm sure as heck certain that we need to be pressuring our government to get out of business with Bill Gates, to get out of business with Peter Thiel, to get out of business in the eugenics game, because that's really, get out of the transhumanist game. And that may mean we need to get out of the AI game. And that's going to be a hard sell to Trump. He loves that. He says that is the future.
Well, just remember that people in government, my take on people in government is if they're there more than one term, they're buying into the program that has taken over who they are, what they're about. So the controllers that control the moves that happen on the big stage of this country control them so heavily, you can't stay in office more than a term. And by the way, it would be very hard at this point to even get in for a first term if you weren't willing to go along with certain talking points and the problem, the things that they're told to go with. So we don't even hear about abortion anymore. Have you noticed that on our right? And I'm anti-abortion. We do not hear about abortion anymore because it used to be a hot ticket item that they would utilize to get into office and things. They don't even have to anymore. All they have to do is be chosen by the party to get in, and the election will sway their way because they have complete control over elections since 2004. Complete control. We used to always have control, but complete control. And we are at a place where we don't even realize that these representatives, they're not representatives at all. And so we can try to go to them. If they know that the people see it, then who knows? But I know that these people are bought and sold, and I've seen it with my own eyes. So I know that they're bought and sold. If they're in government right now, they're chosen to be there. If they sort of leverage their position to tell the truth, they're gone after one term. They're gone. They will not be invited back. Or dead.
They're gone or dead.
Yeah.
That's your choice.
Yep. You're exactly right.
Ooh,
so
that's scary.
It's really scary.
Keep the faith.
Yeah.
That's my message. Keep the faith. And, look at your sphere of influence, look at the people that you
Mhm.
surround yourself with, make sure they're the best people and
Right.
make sure that you're there for them.
Yes. Yes.
That's what we got to
Thank
do
you.
to stay sane and happy.
All right. Thanks, Midwest Melissa. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
and of course, Susan's coming on now. And I just wanted to mention Cardio Miracle because I've lost 13 pounds since January and since about the 10th when I really started. I was just sipping on it all day and I've been doing this every day. And let me just tell you, cardiomiracle.com/Kate. It's helping me lose weight. It's helping me, oh my gosh, get the minerals in, the vitamin D, you name it. I mean, I can't tell you some of the things I've experienced. It is pretty amazing. My husband also will not go without it every day. And he is not a guy that likes to take anything. So it's a hard sell for him, right? But let me just tell you, he doesn't go without it. And so I just wanted to let you guys know, cardiomiracle.com/Kate. Try it out. It has 20 times the fruit and vegetables of a fruit and vegetable capsule. 20 times. And it also delivers vitamin D. This is something we need right now. It's February. Please take this. It will keep you healthy. I promise you. This is the one. And also it helps me lose weight. I sip on it all day. I love it. It's absolutely amazing. I just have loved this product, but it didn't make a difference until I took it twice a day. So I actually put 2 doses in a water bottle and drink that all day and kind of sip on it. Sometimes I'll even have it at night again. So, but just, I'm telling you, it's so good. I can't even recommend it enough. cardiomiracle.com/Kate helps me sleep better. I can't even imagine I just can't even tell you all the differences, but it's pretty amazing. So Susan's on with me. Hi, Susan. How are you?
I'm great, Kate. How are you?
Excellent. And by the way, go to the website because there are some pretty wonderful sponsors there that I highly, highly recommend just because I utilize their stuff and their products. But their products are truly amazing. Right now, MyPillow has the best deals happening right now. They always do in the winter. I don't know if you guys realize this, but they always do huge blowouts in the winter. And this is a great time to get new bedding or a mattress topper. If you can't afford a mattress right now, get a mattress topper. But I do have their mattresses and mattress toppers in my house, and I love them. Also, I just wanted the remineralization toothpaste. They also have the kid version. They also have deodorant remineralization. Very, very important because it's such a clean product and I love it. And then also the teeth whitener, which is what I use. That's why my teeth are so white. But I love their remineralization whitener. Go grab that because it also makes a good gift too for somebody you just don't know what to buy for. But amazing stuff on my website, katedalleyradio.com. Always use the code word Kate. You can even order stuff at the doctor the drartistshow.com. You can even order stuff from him. Use the code word Kate. Okay. All right, Susan, what are we talking about?
Well, I thought we would launch into a little bit of a surprise article that I found. It was originally published on The Atlantic, and it was called "This is How a Child Dies of Measles." And it was just published this Thursday, and it starts off like this. Now, tell me if you think this sounds real. The birthday party invitation said siblings welcome, which means you can bring your 11-month-old son while your husband's out of town. This is written by Elizabeth Brunig. And she goes on saying, and while the kids are napping, you tap a list of your daughter's symptoms into Google because your daughter comes up with all these symptoms. And then it progresses through the daughter. And you don't realize that she's basically made this up. It's a made up story. And the readers in the comments below are like, oh, this poor mother and her child dies and on and on.
Well, it's The Atlantic. What do you expect? It's like reading Time magazine.
I know it.
Oh, gosh.
So there is a media kind of a watchdog analysis group called the NeimanLab.org. And one of the researchers actually reached out to the author and said, so this article that I was reading by Neiman Lab said, when I initially read her story, I was stunned. An Atlantic staff writer's unvaccinated child had died of measles in the 2020.
Give me a break.
Like, what? And then she starts to read, and So she sent the link to a bunch of her friends, and she's like, read this. And they sent her, oh my gosh, this is terrible. And so she reached out and found out this was just made up.
Mm-hmm.
This was made up. They pushed for this and then wrote an article at the end, a little
Mm-hmm.
note at the end,
Mm-hmm.
indicating that this was not accurate. But it was, so an Atlantic publicist, so in the people's comments under the article, an Atlantic publicist emailed one of the readers back and said, this is based on a mother's real account. Thanks for checking. And then there was a disclaimer that was added at 4:30, so way after it was published.
Mm-hmm.
And it said, you know, that this was just an, I'm trying to read where it says what it exactly said, but they added a little note way at the end,
Mm-hmm.
where maybe not a lot of readers would even get and notice that there was a little note added at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I admired about this: is she reached out
Mm-hmm.
to the author. Feels, oh hey, I came up with this,
Mhm.
and we wanted to spin the narrative. She says, how would you describe this category? This is how a child dies of measles.
Mhm.
If it's not fictional, that it's fictional according to the note at the bottom. Oh, this is what the note said: based on extensive reporting and interviews with physicians, including those who have cared directly for patients with measles.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the end you realize, but that's still fiction. It was based on, right?
Right.
And so the author said it's a hypothetical account of a very real phenomenon based on careful reporting. I would place it somewhere on the creative nonfiction spectrum. So nonfiction means you're telling something true, but you're saying it's creative.
Mm.
And so then the Neiman Lab investigator says, well, that's a fascinating choice. Because basically you're saying I'm pretending it's real.
Right,
but
right.
I'm
In my mind, this is what I am. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me with these people. Oh,
And so
geez.
you realize the large number of
Mhm.
people who are on the left who would read this, who would circulate it, who would send it to
Yeah.
friends,
Mhm.
who would say, and it just, what it does is it solidifies in their mind
Mhm.
that they have the absolute correct and moral stance of getting their child 1,000% vaccinated, right? Because here's how a child dies.
Oh, please don't do it. Yeah.
Oh my
Mhm.
gosh. Okay. And says, well, and then they say, the investigator says, well, do you think you should have put the disclaimer at the end of the article, or
Mhm.
should you have put it at the beginning?
Mhm.
And she says, well, I with my editors, we wanted to be, we were
Mhm.
attracted to the idea of a play-by-play of the progression of measles in granular detail. And yeah, she goes through all the horror, the angst, the
Mhm.
anxiety, just like ginning
Mhm.
up this huge drama, granular, right? It's
Mhm.
almost like a psyop in and of itself, if you really think about it, right?
Mhm.
But she said, it seemed like the best way to lay it all out
Mhm.
was to spin a narrative that touches on every important aspect of measles infection,
Mhm.
from the biological process inside the body to the government response to an outbreak. And then she says, I tend to write nonfiction, which means, actual reporting either in the first or third person. So this felt a little weird.
Mhm.
But when you say you're trying to get into the mind of your reader. You're trying to get your reader to be like on the spot. It's you.
Mhm.
And she says, well, I talked to all these people. I talked to all these doctors. And then the investigator, her name is Owens, last name Owen, says, who was the mom character you imagined in your head?
Oh my gosh. See, the
how did
measles
you
story
write
isn't a
her?
story. You got to make it up. Go
Well,
ahead.
she's like, how are you thinking
What?
about her and the kids? And
Uh-huh.
and this was like a baby. And she's like,
Mhm.
well, I was thinking of myself and my own children,
Oh my
even though my
gosh.
children are 9 and 6 and my children are fully vaccinated.
Oh my
But I wanted
gosh.
to try to put myself in the shoes of a mom who was very hesitant about vaccinations. Well, guess what? You can't. If you're an enthusiastic, rabid supporter of vaccinations, you cannot put yourself in the
Mhm.
shoes of somebody who has different information
Mhm.
that they are weighing, right?
Right.
She said, so many parenting decisions are based on different forms of anxiety. So I feel a lot of solidarity with parents striving to do what is best for their kids. Okay, I'll concede on that one point. But when she uses the word anxiety, you realize she was deliberately trying to stoke anxiety. That was her intention in this article. She says, I didn't want to judge her. I didn't want her to be a caricature. So Owen came back and said, well, I got feedback from my friends and they thought it was like kind of sensationalistic. And why would you do it this way? And she says, I agree. The story's dramatic. Yeah, the child dies.
Well, yeah, they wanted it too, because they have to have a story about measles. And it's fake or it's pure fake.
I know.
Fakery.
She says, but measles in itself is dramatic and a damaging disease. And there's no way to lay that out faithfully without exploring those frightening and dangerous
but
elements.
here's a point though. So if it was, you would have enough to write about. So they insert an idea that says measles is killing our children. And then what they do is they go, but I have to create a story because there really isn't any. So I have to create a story that it is doing this, the thing that I believe it's doing, not by fact, just that I believe it's doing. So now I have to create a story. I mean, it's pretty amazing that somebody that is the thinking process of people. Like that's amazing.
And that they got caught at it.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, they got caught at it.
Right.
But she said one researcher I spoke with told me that between 50 and 60% of measles cases will result in pneumonia. 1 in 6 unvaccinated people with measles will require hospitalization. But then she goes on to say, but those are people usually with compromised immune systems to begin with, right? And so she said those are the people at the greatest risk. And Owen, investigator, says, I was super shocked by the end. How did you learn about there were long-term consequences? Then she goes into this super scary thing, a degenerative brain disorder that you can get caused by measles between 7 and 10 years after initial infection. She's like, yeah, it's super rare. It's 1 in 1,000 pediatric cases. It's ultra rare. And I thought, wow, the Atlantic going full hog on just terrorizing the population with a story. And you know, the other thing about it is when we had open borders, I have to say this was the funniest thing. Open borders, people fleeing, and they say, oh, we don't have papers, we don't have birth certificates, we've lost everything. But they were saying, oh, 95% of this population coming across the borders is completely vaccinated. You're like, okay, that makes no sense. Absolutely no sense. But they're saying that these outbreaks are specifically in people who are choosing not to get their kids vaccinated. So she was saying, you know, that she was hoping that somebody who was hesitant about getting vaccinated would randomly come across this article and read it and change their mind. She's like, these people are really weighing these issues.
Yeah, got it.
But it still says this is based on a mother's real account. And I just thought, I'm very confident it could persuade people. Oh, no, I take it back. It says at the very end, it says this piece has been updated with information about the timing of when the disclaimer was added, and to note that it was an Atlantic publicist, not a spokesperson.
Yeah,
who
got
wrote
it.
This is Mace.
Yeah.
So the thing about it is, this was an attempt, and you wonder who really initiated it, who got paid to do this. Obviously, she did get paid, and you wonder where that money came from. To put out this it was designed to terrify.
Yeah, this is what the media always does. I mean, they have a very, very weird way of creating the news. They have an insistence of going with whatever they're told to target and talk about. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all, because like I said, measles isn't scary. I mean, these kinds of headlines about measles back in the 1960s and 70s, can you even imagine? People would have laughed. So now everything is scary. So now they have to put out measles is scary. They got to do anything they can to increase the shots given by the government. So it's sickening. It's sickening. All right. Well,
and yes, remember the Brady Bunch
Mhm.
episode?
Oh, yeah.
Let's get together and
Yeah.
get all the measles.
Yeah.
Why would they put on the Brady Bunch
Yeah.
if it was,
Yeah. hard.
Anyway.
It's very rare to die from the measles, so you probably have some other things happening. So it's amazing to me that they can get away with this. But I love that you showcased why or how they do it, because having a belief about something and having to create a story should have told her right off the bat that there is no story there, but that her belief is wrong. But that's not what happened. So she wanted to get paid and she wanted to put that story out. So they make it up. Yeah.
And if you're a nonfiction writer,
Mhm.
here's what's true. Let's say you're interested in doing a story about the parents of somebody who had a murdered child.
Mhm.
You go and you spend time with them and you
Mhm.
get the granularity. You
Mhm.
get the little nuances. You don't have to invent them because you're witnessing them. They're telling you, relatives are talking to you. And so the fact that she had to just create this out of whole cloth, and but it's based, and you're like, okay, so just heads up on that.
Okay.
Isn't that
Yeah,
fascinating?
yeah.
They got caught.
All right.
Okay. Something happening here in California. I just wanted to briefly mention this because I want to get to what's happening with glyphosate. But here in California, Los Angeles School District was just raided by the FBI. The LA school district offices were just shut down and raided by the FBI and the home of Superintendent Alberto Carvalho.
Okay.
Is
For what
also
reason?
raided. Now, what's significant about this
Mhm.
is Gavin Newsom, during his State of the Union thing, whenever he did that a few weeks ago, stopped and then called out Alberto Carvalho about what a great job he was doing and how wonderful he was. Stopped, made a note. People need to, nobody's going to know this, but if you go back in the time machine, the Wayback Machine, you'll find out that during the whole Trayvon Martin disaster with George Zimmerman, remember George?
Oh, yes. How could
Zimmerman
we
was
forget?
Peruvian who killed Trayvon Martin.
Mhm.
The superintendent at the Miami-Dade school was Alberto Carvalho, who is close buds with none other than Pam Bondi. So he's a Florida guy, right? So he connected, very well connected politically. But what happened was Trayvon Martin had been a criminal before and he got kicked out of school finally. But there was a deep dive by Sundance at the Conservative Treehouse back then. So I think this was 2014, that they were diverting criminals in school and making these, they would have been arrested on felonies and they were doing these diversion programs in the school. So hardcore criminals who had a long habit of criminality, break-ins, all sorts of things, were giving all this, what they called restorative justice, right?
Okay.
That was Alberto Carvalho. And now his office is getting raided. And so big things are happening. But I think it has to do with funding. I think it has to do with misappropriation of funds is what I'm seeing. But you know how they move these guys around the country? If you're corrupt and do the partner's biddings, the puppet master's biddings in one location, you get promoted to the next. What happened to the Las Vegas police chief? Where did he end up?
Yeah.
After the Las Vegas shooting, he ended up in Lahaina, where they had the massive fire. That was fascinating. So just two more notes about this. He just gave a press conference and he's like, I admit it, I was an illegal alien when I came to this country at age 17. And somebody said, did he just admit to being an illegal alien for 40 years? I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know how long, but he was an illegal alien. He's like, so then I have a special place in my heart. It also says he has a zipper problem. So I will leave that to your imagination as to what that means, but it is what you think it is. And he was there and oversaw the Parkland school shooting. So this guy is, he's done the puppet master's bidding for a long time. There's a picture of him with Joe Biden. And it was called the Promise Program, where high school kids who commit felonies were directed away from the criminal justice program and given school punishments like suspensions. Can you imagine?
No.
I don't know who these people are who think kids get better but see, they wanted certain numbers. They wanted to hit certain numbers and they wanted to look good. So that's what that's about. And so that's unfolding. I thought that was super interesting.
Yes.
Anyway, nothing new under the sun, right?
Right. Ever.
ever.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about Trump and this executive order he signed on glyphosate as being an issue of national security. And I don't know if you've talked about it on a day that I missed listening, but there was more to this than I realized as I read the response by RFK Jr. And so on February 18th, President Trump signed an executive order invoking the Defense Production Act of 1950, calling the need to use glyphosate-based herbicides an issue of national security. And so people were like, what is this? We put him in office. He promised to make our food supply safer. And he said in his order, there is no direct one-for-one chemical alternative to glyphosate-based herbicides. So have you used Roundup before?
I haven't, but
yeah, I mean, I have used it on wheat and whatnot, and they've been sued in court, and billions of dollars changed hands, and there were, plaintiffs, whatnot. But there's a lot of health issues because not just the people who use it and get it on them, like farm workers, but because it's sprayed to dry out crops. And they're saying that's one of the things you need to dry in order to harvest. And they say, can we please stop that? So what it's done though, politically, is it's divided the MAGA community. So now you have all these people ginned up, angry with Trump. And doesn't that make sense that as soon as something like this happens, there's just this huge reaction, right? In overdrive. What's Trump doing? Why is he doing this?
It's always about Trump, never about the deep state actually doing it.
Yeah. Well, and let me just interject this really interesting thing. So Thomas Rentz, who I think you've had on the show, right?
Yeah.
He said, why is this administration fighting so hard to protect cancer-causing glyphosate? And he said, Bayer Pharmaceuticals has worked with both Ballard Partners and Mercury LLC. Susie Wiles, the president's chief of staff, was a lobbyist for both companies and Pfizer. Pam Bondi was a lobbyist at Ballard Partners. And he said, so this is Thomas Rentz, and this is his perspective. He said, this is profoundly important in understanding why the administration would take such an unpopular position on an issue so important to MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. Susie Wiles and Pam Bondi both worked for Ballard Partners. Wiles was a managing partner at Mercury. And so they're saying this is why Susie Wiles was put in the first place, is because she had these deep industry connections. And also Bayer, which is a German company, gave Trump $1 million for his inaugural committee and his inauguration. So obviously tit for tat it's not a good look. I mean, it really is not, right?
Nope.
Because it's poisons, right? And then we've talked about this on the show before, that Bayer company was a German company and they have ties to the Third Reich. And they were part of the IG Farben conglomerate, and several of the leaders of that company were tried and hung as war criminals for poisoning the population. But you know what? Bayer got to go on. So when they want to take down the Confederate generals, you're like, you know what? Bayer killed people, they get to go on.
They usually just change names and
they didn't even change the name. They were just like, we're just going to keep going. Just keep going. Pretend like nothing happens.
Yeah, don't look here.
I had to laugh. I didn't look too far into this, but I saw a post today on X where it says Bill Gates owned up to his, what did it say? Owned up to his ties to Epstein in a board meeting. It's being reported. And I thought, well, owned up, you admit to it and then say, too bad, so sad, you just owned up. What?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what owning up means. But then RFK Jr. posted a response, and I thought his response was super important because I just didn't actually realize what was at stake here. He starts off by saying, I told you I would always tell the American people the truth, which people who are not a fan of his would say he's cheated on multiple wives, multiple times, whatever. And says, yes, these pesticides and herbicides are toxic by design. But these chemical companies have paid billions of dollars, tens of billions, to settle cancer claims. But he said, our agricultural system depends heavily on these chemicals. And essentially what he says in this is we're trying to transition, and the transition has to be smooth. We can't go through a rocky transition and then end up with not enough food. Okay. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think everything is long and drawn out on purpose. And I think that the people in government that are allowed to be there are not going to do anything rash. So even though they need to at this point, the building is burning, but they're going to continue to throw little sprinkles of water on it. And it looks like a lot of action, but it's not really at the end of the day. And I don't think they're allowed to have a lot of action. I mean, look at it this way. DDT back in the 40s, right? Back in the late 40s and early 50s, that was causing what we call now as polio symptoms. And so the DDT was being sprayed, but it was very potent. Glyphosate is actually where one has chlorine, which is DDT, and they replace that with phosphorus for the glyphosate. So glyphosate is a little less potent than DDT. So if we wonder why we're really sick and we wonder what's going on with the health of America, there's a lot of things, but one of the, I shouldn't say number one, but one of the things is glyphosate being sprayed on our food. So what they did was they just dialed down DDT so that it wasn't going to be all of these heinous symptoms like what looked like polio, because that was a little too much. They would have been found out. They just lessened it in glyphosate. So then we're not noticing as much, even though we're still having a lot of the health problems still. So they just dialed it down a little bit to get it passable. And we're not going to eradicate it from our food supply. And in Trump's executive order, he basically shored it up and said, now you can't go after them at all. So it's kind of amazing that he did that. And people should really take a look at that. It is not okay. And this is really more of a, here's another example that the deep state's running the show, that this is not a take back of America. We're not taking anything back. We're just actually making it worse right now, and we're not recognizing it as a people. So people still are in the tribes and they're not recognizing the fact that we're not doing much about anything. We're
up against the same forces that are working against us. Across the aisle. Well, he actually does address that and says that their liability is only taken away for something that the government orders them to do, which I don't know what that would be, but not if it's just toxic, that they're still liable for being toxic if people are using that. And I didn't realize he says the US represents 4% of the world's population, yet we use roughly 25% of its pesticides. And he said, this is always the straw man. If we got rid of this overnight, crop yields would fall, food prices would surge, and there would be a massive loss of farms beyond what we're witnessing today. Yeah, if we did it overnight. Okay, yes, I think that would probably be true.
I think it's a lie. It would not happen like that. Okay. And they wiped out all of those. They wiped out so many farmers. So 100 years ago, we were 95% farmers. Now we're 5%. Okay, so it completely flipped. And they're wiping farms out all the time in favor of the big corporation farms. And so they're never going to say, let's not do it anymore. They're locked in. They're controlled by government. And whether they like it or not, there's a control there because of either funding they received or something they're getting. And it's really sickening. So they're going to go full steam ahead on the food production the way it is. Why? Because it delivers us as patients to pharma. So that relationship is never going to end because pharma is the biggest lobbyist, right? So it will deliver health crisis to pharma, and we are having to endure a lot of health crisis. And I feel like it's just so combined. I don't know if we realize how much of a relationship is there.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard not to read in these things and not say, "Oh my gosh, you say there's no conspiracies," when these things have been going on for so long, and then
amazing.
they did lose in court. And so, doesn't that prove?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he said his executive order protects two pillars of national strength. This is what they're saying: our defense readiness and our food supply, since the majority of the glyphosate is produced in China. And they make this excuse that, President Trump didn't build our current system, he inherited it. And Washington designed modern agriculture, which is true, around the world. And it's the policymakers wrote farm policy. Actually, that would have been the lobbyists. Lobbyists wrote farm policy, directed research dollars, structured subsidies and crop insurance, and shaped commodity markets to reward single food sources. So you're just growing a field of strawberries. It's not multi, organic. And prioritize short-term output over long-term soil vitality and human health. Now he says, this is RFK Jr.'s own words and position he put out, we are now changing course without destabilizing the food supply. Okay, that is a noble goal, but let's see what he says, how they're going to do it. He says, along with Secretary Rowlands, we're accelerating the transition to regenerative agriculture by expanding farm systems that rebuild soil, increase biodiversity, improve water retention, reduce reliance on synthetic chemicals, including pre-harvest desiccation. So that's what I was talking about, where they spray the glyphosate on the crops to desiccate them, and so that they can be harvested sooner. We're also driving the rapid adoption of next generation technology, including, I don't know if you've ever seen this before, I have, laser guided weed control. Have you ever seen drones flying over fields and they zap weeds based on the visual of how the weed looks? Electrothermal, electric system, robotics, precision, mechanical cultivation, and biological controls that will replace blanket spraying with precision interventions. And he says farmers are already putting them to work. Markets are scaling them bigger. And now the federal government will act with urgency. And he said part of the problem, the downside of chemicals, chemical inputs, they cut into margin. In other words, the more chemicals you're having to use, you're less profitable because you're having to use more chemicals. Soil health is really declining. They know that. Chemical resistant pests are spreading. That is true. And so when he wrote this, I thought, you know what? I do believe he's a true believer, but whether or not you are right, will he be able to make any progress on these to any significant scale? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't, I think he was put in for a reason, same as the rest of the team. And I don't think he actually is going to do much. In fact, he would know that the destabilization lie of our produce and our food supply is a lie. So I know that he would know that, because we for centuries grew food and had no problem coming up with ways to do it using very natural means. And when they flipped over to industrial chemicals in the late 1800s, early 1900s, then all of them became a believer that they had to do that. And not a believer, but this is what they wanted to do, was the agenda, is to make it so that we couldn't survive without those chemicals being on that food because we have so much population. Well, it's absolutely asinine. I actually think he probably knows that has to be a lie. And so I don't know why he keeps putting that out there, that he's got to do it this slower way and maybe and kind of, and I don't know. I think it's a runaround, to tell you the truth, because I think when you really look at government, who gets to go in to be the heads of these departments, the deep state's never going to mess around. They're never going to get somebody that they can't control. Right. So at the end of the day, it's all controlled. So I as much as I want to like RFK, I think that it's extremely controlled. And I think that he is part of the theater happening. And so of course he's going to shore up the lie, but then say, well, we'll do this. This is our workaround. But the workaround it takes so long and makes hardly a dent in one of the biggest things that's affecting all of us, and that's our food supply. So that's those are my honest thoughts.
No, I believe you on that. And he does say something that is very revealing. He says, he talks about in a paragraph how damaging glyphosate is. And he says a survey found glyphosate more than 80% of adult urine samples and 87% of samples from children. A separate study tracking Southern California residents over 2 decades found a 500% increase of people testing positive for glyphosate in their urine. And this is what he says. Listen to this. Within MAHA, the question has never been about whether glyphosate exposure is a problem. The question is how we solve it without devastating, I thought he was going to say the millions of lives, like of us getting sick, but he says, no. Question is how we solve it without devastating the millions of American families who depend on farming for their livelihoods. In other words, we know you're all getting sick. We know your health is declining by the millions simultaneously, right? But we're worried about the farmers. And he says American agriculture is currently structured around glyphosate in ways that it took decades to build. And he said millions of family farmers operate within the system and the margins are so thin. So then you realize they're throwing us under the bus so that they don't disrupt. That's a lobby thing right there. As soon as I read that, I thought the lobby is making sure that we don't switch over too quickly, if at all. I mean, you can buy your own produce that is organic, right? You can choose to do that. You do pay significantly more, or you can grow it.
Buy it locally, grow it locally. Yeah, for sure.
But it's but when I read that, I thought, oh, this is about the farmers just saying we'll cause a catastrophe, and then you'll have a political mess on your hands. He does say specifically, he said the most inflammatory claim is that this order gives pesticide companies blanket immunity from cancer lawsuits. That is not accurate, and so that they can still be sued for that. Then he goes into the specific details of what else they're going to do, because this is the memo, the action memo, accelerate the shift to next generation technologies and biological crop protection. And he says this is not aspirational. So again, you hear his true believer. He's the perfect person to be the spokesperson as the true believer.
But what does that mean as far as the new produce? Does that mean it's it's 3D generated? I mean, what are we eating? Because people have been saying this a lot since 2020. The taste of food is just bizarre. Like, it's gotten different consistencies, and I have to agree, it's weird. There's a shift. Something is very, very wrong. So, what does it mean? Like, what is he describing it as?
The next generation technologies and biological crop protection. So, I think he's only focused on the area around glyphosate, but this is going to cross over into, because he mentions robotic autonomous weeding, where you have robots doing the weeding, electrothermal weed control. But I know they're coming up with produce that is pest resistant, right? And so that ends up being something completely different, because then you're putting that into your body. But this is what I thought was super interesting, is that they're going to make sure that the military and schools, they're going to fast track having those entities, which are huge buyers, right, of agriculture, making sure that they have access to the best and latest technology grown food and go to them. And so he thinks it will create this virtual circle, federal purchasing power, a procurement preference for low chemical input products in school lunches, military commissaries, and federal feeding programs would create immediate institutional demand. Federal food procurement represents approximately $20 billion annually. And that should be pulling American agriculture towards healthier production, not anchoring it to the status quo. Okay, I think that's probably, that could be true. That if they do that and prioritize that, it's anyway.
Mm.
But I do like this thing. They said the USDA should expand its pesticide data program to include comprehensive annual residue testing for, I hope everybody washes their vegetables anyway. Residue
Well,
testing for all 70 plus food crops
Mhm.
where glyphosate is used as a pre-harvest desiccant.
Well, yeah,
And
because
so,
they're spraying it more since 1995. When autism
yes,
went through the roof, they're spraying it multiple times,
yeah, a
pre and
pre-harvest.
post and during, and yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
not to keep the bugs off, to
Mm-mm.
dry it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're getting it, I've seen my kids just eat
Right.
whatever straight off and some vegetables and fruits are worse than others, like
Mhm.
strawberries tend
Mhm.
to absorb more chemicals. But if they're trying to dry things out, and that's where
Well,
you get your wheat and all of that.
right. And then
Anyway,
also
it,
we started getting the gluten issues after this as well. So when you just mentioned
yes,
wheat,
yes.
the gluten
And
issues didn't arrive until that really started. But the other thing is you can't get off. It's very, very difficult to get off the appeal substance on fruits and vegetables from the Bill Gates Club. So
yeah, it's
washing it
that
off
is
is very, very difficult.
right,
Yeah.
right. He did say in 2025, the USDA launched a $700 million regenerative pilot program, dedicating $400 million and $300 million to help farmers adopt whole farm regenerative practices.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the MAHA agenda. No-till soil management to deplete weed seed banks over 3 to 5 years, high biomass cover crops
Mm-hmm.
terminated mechanically to provide 6 to 8 weeks of natural weed suppression.
Right, right.
So all of these,
Okay.
the crunchy people have
Mhm.
been doing for a long time on a smaller scale.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be what people then demand, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
do you know a lot of people who are oblivious
Well,
to how their food?
we're completely screwed on the food
Oh,
supply.
oh,
We're
I
completely
mean,
screwed. I don't even know how to say that more. They're doing a lot of things to our food supply, and the fact that executive order came out to prop up glyphosate makes me sick. So
it's shocking.
mhm.
I think if I read this right, what they're saying, it's to take it away from China and have
Mhm.
it produced here in the United States so that we're not dependent on China.
Mhm.
I noticed another article about China, that China's final access to the Panama Canal,
Mhm.
their grants, their rights, whatever, has finally been cut off.
Mhm.
And Panama did not want to go along with that. The Panamanians were fully in with the Chinese. So if China becomes hostile to us, they're aligned with Russia, of course, aligned with Iran. So he's right in that sense.
Mhm.
Like, why do we have our pharmaceuticals, our crops,
Mhm.
pesticides produced over there when those things can harm us? It's a good point, and maybe it will transition us.
Yeah.
I think more. I see so many people buying organic produce, and
Mhm.
I just know I feel better.
Yeah,
People
I don't
say,
know. I mean, we had those farmers on there were going, "Hey, it's a lie." But I mean,
Really?
yeah, we had farmers on, and it was it's kind of a scam. And you know, I'm sure there are certain farmers that are doing it naturally, but overall, very, very scamish. So the best thing to do is just go to a local farmers market and be very, very careful about what you're buying, and go to local beef producers and things like that. But they've just done a number on ranchers and farmers, and I think ranchers and farmers are the salt of the earth. I think that they are kind of the heart of America, and it's really sad to see how the government has overtaken it with industrial chemicals, because it wasn't necessary. And the lie that they used in the beginning to do that was to say we were overpopulated, so it was necessary that they started the industrial chemical campaign on our food. And we've done nothing but get more and more sick ever since they did it. So overall, so it's not stopping. We're getting more and more sick, right? So
well, it's true. And people who live in Europe or spend time vacationing say, I can eat all the bread there without any of the problems
yeah.
That I end up with when I eat bread here in the United States. And, you know, the foreign exchange students come over and they go, what is wrong with your bread? Why is it
Yes.
so sweet?
Yes.
Why does it taste so weird?
Mhm.
And it's because we're doing all the things that Europe chooses not to do, especially France. My son went to France and he said, there was a bread festival. I said, really? I said, did you eat a lot of bread? He goes, I ate so much bread. I said, how did you feel? He says, you feel great. The bread is fantastic. You can eat it every day and you don't feel bloated. You don't feel weighed down and none of that. So I thought, okay, I think there really is something to that. And they are not, they've been militant about not spraying their own crops with this. So time to eat.
Okay.
Make your own.
What else you got? Yeah, it's insane. It's insane.
So I just wanted to comment on the State of the Union address because I was only going to watch a few minutes of it, and then I was so compelled by the theater of it because it was just such a spectacle. And I thought, do people not know this is a spectacle? This is designed to be just a spectacle. I was so impressed with the soldier who got the Congressional Medal of Honor for his bravery in that extraction of Maduro, arrest and extraction, because that could have gone down as another Jimmy Carter Iranian hostage rescue debacle. And instead, it was so successful. And, one of the reasons they said they extracted Maduro that I hadn't realized is he had always said he was Venezuelan, when it turns out they have absolute proof that he is Colombian and not Venezuelan. And in order to be president, you had to be born in Venezuela. So, I feel pretty good about that happening. I have been watching the media on Mexico. Have you been watching this?
Yeah, I think it's CIA created, but yes. Go ahead.
Oh, right. Because, Trump kept giving the president of Mexico these ultimatums to take care of the cartels. And my understanding is it was kind of joint, that U.S. troops were involved because Trump said, we'll just use special forces troops. Now, of course, he's not going to broadcast that now, but that originally the president of Mexico said she didn't want to do it because it would create violence in the rest of the country, which it has. I have a friend who says she has family members stuck in Puerto Vallarta who are hunkered down and they need to find a way to leave. So it is incredibly dangerous. Life is cheap, but that country has been held hostage by the cartels. And who are the cartels funded by? The cartels, people go, oh, well, it's just drug money. There's multinational criminal organizations, the Chinese, the Russians, everybody. Everybody's in Mexico as a base of operation.
And Trump said what about us going in?
Trump said originally we should just use special forces troops to go in. This was either while he was campaigning or while he was first sworn in. I think it might have been when he was campaigning. And because I remember the big upsurge in enthusiasm from the special forces community, which, they were used heavily during the war and they had kind of a high profile, but now they hadn't been. So when he said that, there was all this cheering bubbling up on X and other places from special forces people. And I thought, okay, wouldn't that be smart of us to go in and take control back? It's such a tragic system. I mean, literally, they recruit these child soldiers, threaten them, have them commit murders for them. It's just a horrendous system.
Yeah.
And so
that does exist. I will agree that does exist. I just think it's headed up by CIA operations, just like they've been doing. Remember, South America was South America was basically the 70s, right? The 80s was Bosnia. Every decade we have new places that the CIA targets for infiltration of color change, right? And going in and mixing the pot a little bit and making it look like all these people are doing these kinds of things. I think that's what's going on in Mexico right now. And I think we're saving the day, because I think that and I could be wrong, I just think that we're saving the day in probably a bigger way than we realize is going to happen, because they're trying to turn us into a region with Mexico to make us look very unified and getting rid of the bad guys and doing all of these things. But I think they're fomenting violence down there. I think they'll use regular people to be on board with it, but they foment it at the head of it. So just like they do all over the world. So I think when I see big things like this going on, I'm usually like, yeah, that would be the CIA conjuring up and manipulating a situation and then making it look like it's very natural going on in the country. But I actually don't think it is, if you were to ask me.
That could be absolutely true. And there could also be influence from the nefarious, the Chinese, who then send up the fentanyl. Because they make the precursor in China and then they traffic it to Mexico where the precursor is made. Our CIA could be involved in that, or there could also be nefarious thing going on.
Isn't it funny that they concentrate? You'll hear the theater actors of Congress and the Senate go hard on fentanyl, but they never talk about heroin and they never talk about all the other drugs.
Right.
Yeah, there's always fentanyl is like their scapegoat one where they kind of utilize that. But the poppy fields in Afghanistan and the heroin going through and the CIA and our intelligence agencies, creating such a huge profit off of that. They're not going to point that out, but they'll hang their hat on fentanyl. It's really strange, by the way.
Absolutely. I just wanted to mention this really quick. Donald Trump has said, has posted, I have asked the DOJ to immediately begin an investigation into the meat packing companies who are driving up the price of beef through illicit collusion, price fixing, and price manipulation. Will always protect our American ranchers, and they're being blamed for what is being done by the majority foreign-owned meat packers who are artificially inflating prices and jeopardizing the security of our nation. It says action must be taken immediately to protect consumers, combat illegal monopolies. Now that's illegal monopolies.
So what's he say? What did he say he was going to do about it?
He said to begin an investigation into the meatpacking companies who are driving up the price of beef. He mentioned that last night in his State of the Union. He's like, meat is still too high. He said it's coming down a little, but he says we're going to figure that out, because
the whole nation for over 100 years has gotten to the point where we're so brainwashed that we believe that government has to control prices at the grocery store, that everything has to be controlled. And it's amazing because it's not government's role at all. But we've been brainwashed into thinking that they get to control it, and then they're the ones that are going to fight the crap happening to it, the surge in prices. But if government got out of the way, it'd be amazing to see what would happen, but they won't. Everything is tripped in CARES money. So CARES Act money, all kinds of cash going to all kinds of places to buy interest, and the government has no role in our food supply. Really and truly, they don't. But we're so brainwashed into thinking that they have to save us from probably a problem that they very much manipulated and controlled and got to where it's at. So it is kind of amazing, the brainwashing part of it, but
the framing
of it.
Yes. This is how it should be. And this is how it's been for a long time. And so you're absolutely right, because we can contract with individual farmers, and a lot of people order their meat and it gets delivered. And I remember growing up, my parents used to go and get a side of beef and then have the beef through the winter, and just lots of people used to do that. But you would know somebody who was a meat cutter, and or people go hunting, and then that meat lasts them through the winter. It's really, you're right.
Yeah.
We misunderstand.
The role of government. And what's sad is we have so many people that are so uneducated. They don't know that government's not supposed to be in charge of gas prices and food prices and all of these things, or the Department of Education, or I could go on and on and on, right? So we just believe, because they've assumed a role illegally, that for decades that they're allowed there, and that's not true. And if the people would speak up, if the people would not be so complacent to this, we could make some changes in this. But we hinge on the administration doing everything for us in providing us the pricing of everything. And it's just amazing to me that we're not smarter than that as a people. we haven't figured that out, that they have no role there legally.
Yeah, we have lost of that survivor mentality of figuring stuff out. You're absolutely right.
So yeah, it's pretty amazing. But I so appreciate you coming on. Thank you. I really do.
My pleasure, as always, Kate Daly.
Yeah, it's it's crazy. It's crazy. There's just so many things, and I'll be back tomorrow. Open phone lines tomorrow. You can call in. I'm gonna cover a lot of different clips, a lot of different pieces of information, and we'll have a conversation on each one of them, because each one of them is insightful. Each one of them is different, and let's just tell the truth instead of right left games. And I don't know, just so tired of the theater. I know everybody is, and joy is good, and make sure that you're experiencing joy with the people that you love. Priorities, right? God's a priority, family's a priority. Keep the priorities. Thanks a lot, Susan. Be faithful, be fearless. And of course, I'll be back. I'm going to play that music because I can't find my outro music, but thank you, Susan. Really appreciate it. And of course, I'll see you tomorrow. KateDalyRadio.com, same time, same bat channel. And I'm excited to have you listening in tomorrow. Comment, call in. I'm great with that. And you can email me, Kate@KateDalyRadio.com. The show needs donations. This is a people-run show. And without you, I can't keep this going. So go to KateDalyRadio.com and you'll find out how you can donate through PayPal or send a check or whatever you're going to do. But thank you for that. This is one of the hardest times of the year for the show to remain truthful and on the air and everything else. And I'm one of the only ones I know that's telling the truth. It's pretty sad out there with media. I can't even express that enough. It's really sad. So this is the time. If you ever wanted to chip in and help for free speech, this is it. Also go to the sponsors, because the sponsors are amazing. allfamilypharmacy.com/Kate. Go get ivermectin, membendazole. Even if you get Pam Bartha's help, you're still going to need help on what doses to take and everything else. And those are some of the things that you'll be doing to get rid of parasites. But we need to get in charge of our health. It's just getting crazy out there. So let's do it, right? And check out yesterday's show with Pam Bartha to understand what we can do about it. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you, and see you tomorrow. Be faithful, be fearless. I'll see you guys tomorrow.